Welcome, seekers and visionaries, to Oracle Mountain Chats. Here on this sacred virtual peak, we gather a space for oracles to share their wisdom, their visions, and their craft. It all began with a calling I could not ignore. One day, within a vision, I held this conch shell in my hands, and as I blew its resonant note into the world, I felt its vibration ripple across unseen realms. It was a summons, a signal to fellow oracles scattered near and far. I saw that we were on a mountain, vast and towering, reaching into the heavens. At its base, the world buzzed with life, people moving, creating, searching. Yet at the summit, there was stillness, clarity, and a circle of light. There, oracles stood, their gaze focused both outward and inward. They spoke of the energies they felt, the shifts they saw, and the whispers of the unseen. They weren't above the world, they were its witnesses and its guides. From this vision, OracleFest was born, a celebration of connection, insight, and the timeless wisdom that flows through us all. The message was clear. It is time. Time to meet upon this sacred mountain, to share what we hear, feel, and see. Time to bring the wisdom of the divine to a world that is yearning for its guidance. Through OracleFest, we've created a movement of community, all yearning to empower their own inner oracle. And here in Oracle Mountain Chats, we bring that spirit into a more intimate space. This is where the oracles gather to reflect, exchange ideas, and to explore what wishes to come through in the moment. This mountain is more than stone and sky. It is a meeting place of the realms, a threshold between seen and unseen, known and unknown. Here we gather as oracles to share the visions Spirit whispers to us, to speak of the energy currents flowing through nature and humanity, and to help guide those who seek answers in a world that often feels lost. So grab a seat, breathe in the mountain air, and join us as we begin today's chat. Whether it's an energy reading, a conversation about our craft, our path, or simply sharing a perspective on the world below, this is where we wait for more oracles to join us on the mountain. What wisdom will the mountain bring us today? Let's find out together. Step into this sacred space where the wisdom of the ages converges with the questions of the present. Okay, beautiful. Here we find ourselves back again on Oracle Mountain. So this is the virtual mountain peak, and we are joined by our first publisher, which I think is so beautiful. So welcome. You help make things happen for so many of the oracles that come through and onto the mountain peaks. And so this is Anna Frolik.
Frolik, but it doesn't really matter because it's not really an English name. So there's yeah, there are many ways to pronounce it. I just usually pronounce it frolic in English because it's closer to that, the word that actually exists in English, which I really like.
And what language is it from?
My dad was born in former Czechoslovakia, so it's from there, but it's probably Germanic originally. I would say it could be German or like the English word is related to that as well. So it's all kind of the same.
Yeah, I always find names really interesting because it's been a part of my personal healing. It has gone through going through names and also aversion to my name. I was completely averse to hearing my name for about 2 years along at some point of my spiritual awakening. It just felt like not right to have a name and an identity, and ancestral healing has been really big for me, and going back and gathering wisdom about the name. So yeah, that's actually fascinating. But we are not here to just talk about your name. We are also here to talk about your journey. And I think there's something in common that we found out in our first conversation together, which is that both of us have really enjoyed the nomadic lifestyle. And I do want to talk about how you weave what you do and your mission, your purpose with publishing. I also want to hear more about how you do that at the same time as living a bit more of this dynamic lifestyle. I think people are always curious to know how anyone does it because it's all different, isn't it, for every kind of nomadic person.
Yeah, so it's a long story. I mean, I've been living a mostly nomadic life for the past, is it around 13 years now? I started in 2011-ish. And then in 2012, I gave up all my belongings. I was living in Switzerland at that time. That's where I was born. Um, but I had lived in Canada before. But the original idea really was, I just felt like that urge to be more free to travel and explore the world and not be tied to a specific place. Because I always felt whenever I came home from traveling, that I just felt trapped in my apartment, and I felt like I wanted more freedom. And then finally, I just followed that and I started downsizing and I just pretty much gave up everything I had, even the business that I had at the time. I'd already been an entrepreneur for a few years at that time. And yeah, it was a very go with the flow journey as well. It was very surprising what happened once I did that. And the original idea was just to be free to travel, and I had a few destinations already booked or kind of planned ahead of time. I spent a bit of time in England and traveled in Europe. I went to Sweden as well. Scotland, I know we talked about that
Yeah,
was around that time as well.
nice.
Um, and then I traveled in the US for a while and then came back to
Mm.
Canada. Um, yeah, which was a total surprise. I mean, I was going to stay here for a while, but I ended up just staying for a really long time.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
still being nomadic on and off. At times I did have a more steady home, but this past year, my life really just changed. Like it was a like a total 180. Like kind of everything. I went full circle with a lot of things, and then it was just very clearly guided, like every step that I my landlady passed away, and then I knew that I wasn't going to be able to stay where I was living, and then a new relationship happened here, and so my partner happens to be on a more nomadic path as well. So it just feels good to be embracing more of that again now.
Yes, that would be really, I think I worry about that myself. The challenge of happening to fall in love with someone who is not looking for that lifestyle, right? It's so challenging. You want lifestyle to be matched in a partner, in a person. So it's amazing that you're well matched at this time. It's great. Um, I am curious, when you talk about your life doing a 180, um, how was life before and what 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 made the voice so loud that said, okay, like this change, that change? Because you're saying, okay, you're following a sense and intuition, um but sometimes we can ignore that. So you could just listen to it and then carry on, right? So what created that like impetus for change?
I definitely see how all of that has changed over the years too. I feel when I first got started on this journey, I was a lot more driven, maybe a lot more in my masculine energy as well, and more on that path of just taking radical leaps and making things happen. I feel a lot of this journey has been about coming more into my feminine side, embracing more of my intuitive self. And part of that is, of course, listening to what my body is saying. And if something just doesn't feel aligned for me anymore, then having the courage to let that go or shift into something new. But a lot of it these days also manifests as things just somehow happening more in the physical. I know we briefly talked about human design before we started this call. I think that's really what part of that journey as well. Like I'm a generator, and so coming more into that energy of just allowing life to come to me and flow through me and responding to things that come my way. So I would say it's a combination of things I was envisioning for a long time, or maybe some desires I had or some intentions, but then not being attached to how it comes about, and really being in that flow. And in 2023, I finally got my Canadian citizenship in the summer, and I had all those ideas of what I was going to do with it. I wanted to travel in the US, and there's so many things, and then none of it really happened that way. Like things just started falling apart initially, and then there was kind of like a redirection. And I had a sense that there was going to be a new partner coming into my life. That was a really clear, intuitive sense, but again, I had no idea like how exactly it was going to happen. Like coming to Ontario was the last thing that I would have been really open to consciously, but it ended up just feeling right and things just started happening. And then it's more like just trusting what feels good in the moment and flowing with that. And that just leads me forward one thing at a time. So it's really finding that balance too, between trusting what feels good to me and being somewhat intentional about my direction, but also being really open to how it unfolds and not controlling the journey too much.
Yeah, because I think like what you're saying is a really important point. A lot of people, it can take a long time to grab this idea, which is like to set an intention is not to set an expectation of that happening, because then it leads you to a lot more feeling of resistance or frustration or disconnect between that and the thing. And you mentioned it before. You also said you had to set your desires or your dreams up, but then also just wait and see how it was going to happen. Because I mean, I think the perfect example actually is the fact that you're in a relationship that you sensed coming, but you were like, I don't know how to call, that, like, what do I do? Right. And I was just talking with my best friend about this earlier. When I just arrived back in Canada, and actually my closest friends are surprised I even came back. So I resonate with that. I'm only back for a moment, so I can assume anyway, unless I have the same fate. But I think that there's a part of us that has that sense and that knowing of what's next. But that part of us does not need our mind to know, right? Like that's not part of the agreement. It's just like that there is this call. So as long as we're continuing to respond to what that next one is, ultimately those senses all come together at some point, or those little visions that you had all come together. So you would have had that feeling and trust of someone coming into your life, and then you go, okay, well, how do you actually plan for that? And this is what I was saying to my best friend is like, oh, well, you just got to let people come into your life. And she's like, well, normally you set goals, so why don't you set the goal? And I said, well, I've never considered that option. Because you do just have to, but there is a part of intentionality where you say, I'm open to that, and I'm going to put myself in positions where I'm putting myself out there. And there are all these like micro decisions that come along with like these little impressions. And I think we don't give that enough credit, that actually we've gotten all these floating tiny little visions over time, and then it starts adding up. And then that's actually how we build trust, probably, in the process, because we can see how many times it's happened. Okay, it happened better than I expected. Oh, that happened not quite the way, but it opened a door for another thing that I did need, as I'm sure you've found as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really see it as a sequence of steps, and often really not knowing what I was doing or what I was creating, in that moment.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
I mean, initially it really felt like things just falling apart, and
Yeah,
another
in the
relationship needed
moment.
to fall apart,
Yeah.
and it felt like death and grieving. And
Mm-hmm.
even the new relationship initially, there was definitely a part of me that was not very open, or just it's very different from what I experienced in the past and previous relationships. It's a lot healthier, I would say, in a lot of ways, but there's this part of me that really needed to let go of certain ideas of how things should be, or
Right.
um yeah, but I'm
Yeah, those
so
little
so
hidden
glad I trusted.
conditions. Yeah.
Like so many things. Like even I mean, many years ago I said to myself, I'm never gonna do the online dating thing again, like ever. But then all of a sudden I just started getting those intuitive hits. It felt like this nudge that just kept repeating itself. And it's like, you have nothing to lose, just give it a try. And then I finally put up a profile and then immediately, well, Chris, the guy I'm in a partnership with now, he reached out the next morning. I had a message from him. It was the only person who reached out I was ever
That
interested
was
in at
easy.
all. So it happened immediately. It wasn't like I went and made it happen, but there was still this intuitive nudge that somehow just
Yeah.
asked me to be a little bit more open to
Yeah, because if you
ways.
were choosing to like ignore that nudge, it might have gone, okay, fine. She's really not interested in online dating. We'll leave that partner, for someone else, or however these things work. Maybe you would have had to bump into each other at a grocery store or something, though, like it would have conspired to still make it happen. But they are these like little yeah, it's like these little doorways or something, these little moments of, okay, you go through that one, now you can be offered the next ones. And sometimes it's easy to just say, oh well, I was just deciding intuitively which way to drive to work, but like it makes a huge difference in the grand scheme of things, all those tiny little decisions. And so when you're also saying you've come to a place where you can kind of go, okay, day to day, I'm just here, present. We were talking about this before the call too, right? It's just like, okay, we have to trust, show up and say, we have a general sense of the things we're working towards. We see how today's stuff connects to that most of the time. And then we stay extra open to the priority nudges of intuition and what they have to say. Right. And then somehow it all works out. Like my parents like to joke that I have a horseshoe up my butt because they think I'm just so lucky. I say, well, I think I'm choosing well, and so good things happen, right? But they do. They think it's like, well, how does that just all click? Or how did Kate go out, and then of the three people she spoke to, this and this and this happened, right? Like they see the synchronistic way that it all lines up, and I think life gets more and more magical the more you also let it become magical. I'm curious whether that is an element that's interesting to you because your business is Wonderland Publishing. And so I keep thinking Wonderland. I wonder what brought her to this name. So did you have an inspiration or connection to this idea of a non-ordinary?
Yeah, so that name actually came out of this journey. I started Wonderland Publishing many years ago, shortly after I came back to Canada. And my idea back then for the whole journey that I was on was I just got the name Anna in Wonderland. That was also my YouTube channel. And so, really exploring the world in this magical way and being open to the possibilities and the magic. And that's really been a big part of my journey for such a long time. I really look for the magic, or I just choose to be open to it. And I experience it exactly in the way that you just described. Sometimes I've had experiences, especially when I was traveling and just really open and just really in the moment, because I feel traveling really puts you into that position where you really have to be so present in the moment because you never know what's going to happen. There's so much room for the unexpected. There's so many things you really can't plan ahead of time and things go wrong and all that. And you just have to, well, deal with it in the moment, but also just being open, like be open to miracles in a way. Okay, this is a really impossible situation right now, but I need to find a solution for this now. And then there's always something there, right? And often it just felt almost like staged.
Yeah,
You
it
know how
does.
all
It
these
feels like a
people were
setup.
already
It's like the
lined up.
Truman Show.
Yeah, like all these people were already lined up
Yeah,
to be in the right place at the right time to help me out with something. And in the
right.
end, it was always so magical. Um, but
Mhm.
anyway, so at that time, my brand, like more the personal side of my business was Anna in Wonderland. And then when I started the publishing thing, I don't know, it felt really straightforward, I guess, just to call it Wonderland Publishing.
Totally.
So,
I love that.
and it's been
It's
that ever since.
we have so many little synchronicity similarities here, which I'm just finding amusing and endearing and very magical as well. Because my first business, when I was doing healing work, I had this in-person location, a beautiful little healing space that was downtown Guelph. And my first business actually, before I had that place, so like that's when I changed into Heart's Frontier. This expanse beyond our heart was, interesting to me. But the business I had before that was Simple, Tiny, Wonderful, because the idea was you make simple, tiny changes and then wonderful things happen in your life. And that's what I was seeing in healing, is actually that it is in all these little bit by bit moments that people, because at that time I wasn't actually even doing intuitive work actively. People just kept asking me to talk to them more in the sessions and kept wanting to use more of the time for like cards and talking to me. And I was like, no, we're supposed to do aromatherapy or reflexology or Thai massage or yoga, any of the things that I've actually trained for, right? And people just wanted to keep talking to me. Right. And so we'd have a split kind of session. And then the pandemic obviously changed how everything had to work. When you go back and look at it, it's like, wow, this is a really perfectly crafted story of life, right? Like we've somehow added in all the right experiences that's led, Kate to this moment, Anna to this moment. But it's all these tiny changes, which is a big part of what we're chatting about today. I think maybe because a lot of people make intuitive decision making or living an intuition led life or living a nomadic life as like a really big thing in their minds. So then it becomes, but really it almost feels like accidental when you're living in it. You're just sort of saying, well, this is the life and this is the choices. So what's next? And having to keep returning to that place so often is, I think, why also many like spiritual and open-minded people are brought to nomadic living, which is not to say that people who are not drawn to it are not also spiritual and open. But I just think there's a commonality you see with a lot of nomadic people, that you're questioning all the things maybe that we are told that life ought to look like in some kind of way. It takes away a lot of these conditions, doesn't it, of how it's supposed to work out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel that's probably one reason for sure why I was drawn to that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also really feeling that now, because when I had a bit more stability in my life and I had a more steady home, I did feel trapped,
Mm-hmm.
in the ways that things normally work in this world. And I just felt like certain things weren't totally aligned, and there were other ways I wanted to do things, but I was yeah, it was difficult to really break free from that when I was, just in that and doing it day by day. And yeah, now I'm just in a situation where nothing is how it used to be, and everything is yeah, it's just like I have to be open to whatever unfolds in the moment, and it actually feels really good. Um, I do remember though when I first got started on this journey, like 10 plus years ago, it was very difficult initially to feel grounded in this space or in this flow. I feel now, yeah, I feel a lot more connected and grounded in the physical as well. So it doesn't feel so unsettling, or
Yes.
yeah, I can flow and still feel like I have a sense of structure in my life, and I don't feel like I'm just floating without having any idea where I'm going or
Yeah, you're
just
not
yeah.
completely untethered, right? You have this like real strong sense about you that's connected to intuition and spirit, and this openness. That openness is like a divine connection, right? The way in which the magical world is going to show you, that next rock to. I just keep seeing it's funny in my mind. I keep seeing this like misty, almost like a jungle, right? And that you're expanding your capacity. So every time you're on a new rock, like crossing the water or something like that, then a new portal opens up. This is a whole new area opens up. And it can feel like that, but you're in this like misty mist the whole way that you're stepping on each step. So I can see the land behind you, but it's like, we feel kind of in the mist in a grateful way. Maybe there's something that comes up often for me in visions with mist, that it's like a helpful tool, that you don't have to see all the things, but you need to surrender. It's almost like putting a blindfold on or something, and you have to be in that kind of trust. um yeah, very interesting. Just thinking a lot about, and maybe it's just because you mentioned Scotland, I'm thinking a lot about the mist now. I've gone back to that place, back to the misty highlands. So I would love to know what you feel or see as exciting or next for you, and in um, perhaps the world of publishing, but also, I mean, genuinely, I'm quite enjoying just getting to know more about your story. And I know the OracleFest folks are going to get to hear more about publishing in the panel discussion that you're joining us for. Um, but there's something to me too about like your work is empowering people to share their message. And so this is a big part of your, and we were just talking about your human design in the throat as well. So that's just clicked for me. You have this communication focus as well, which is so cool. And so I'm curious, yeah, what lies ahead? What can you feel or see for yourself moving forward here?
Yeah, so I definitely have a pretty clear vision in some ways, and then again, the openness to seeing how it unfolds.
Yeah.
I feel like in the past year, especially, my journey has really been actually more about coming back to myself and making my own projects a priority versus because for the past 6 years or so, I've mostly been supporting clients on their journeys of making their own card decks for reality. And then I was constantly putting my own projects on hold. And I got to the point where I felt like I was just restricting myself too much. And I was more like hiding and doing things behind the scenes and doing things for other people or providing a platform for others. So it's already been shifting quite a bit this past year. We launched actually a community, a mastermind and community for deck creators. So it's more of a group focused way of working with me and the people I'm collaborating with. Heath Armstrong, he's the co-founder of Rage Create. We started it together initially, and now his business partner, Jason, is with us as well. And so we're a really good team, really complementing each other. And so the focus has definitely moved more towards teaching and creating a space for deck creators to come together and work with us in that setting. And then also bringing creative people together, creative service providers and experts from different niches. So we can really mastermind, support each other, connect in ways that are beneficial for everyone. I am still offering the done for you services too, but it's becoming a little bit more exclusive in a way. So there's certain things I'm letting go of and just making sure I can streamline things a little bit more. So I think the focus is going to be more on just full service projects where we do everything. So from developing the concept, editing the content, I've been doing that anyway, but then the artwork will be created by us. And so that's usually my amazing illustrator and graphic designer, who's also called Anna. And she's awesome.
Beautiful. So people who are like wanting to have their Oracle deck created, but are struggling maybe with making time or executing it, this would be
Yeah,
a good way to say, hey, this has to be done, but maybe I'm not the person to do it. Can you help me with this?
exactly. And I
Right.
mean, in a lot of ways, this is what I've been doing for the last 6 years. But
Right.
for a while, I was just doing a lot of things and a lot of different projects and little projects and big projects. And I just needed to create a little bit more space there. So we're going to be focusing
Streamlining
more
is
on
important.
bigger projects for the done for you work. And then everything else is going to be working with us in the group setting or
Right. So if you're like
other.
the self-starter type, then they get to work alongside you and feel like that accountability and like you're putting, you know what I love about things like that is that I'm putting time aside to say, okay, that project is moving forward. Like you're committing to it is moving forward. This is going to happen because I'm part of Anna's group and we're going to keep meeting on a regular basis. That brings me back to what I'm doing here. I have to do that with any of I'm writing a book right now. I'm writing a couple because my clients are annoying and they keep asking me to write different ones than the one I was already writing. so they keep saying, oh, I really want you to write a book about this. I'm like, well, I was kind of in the middle of this other one, but yeah, that one sounds really exciting now, and so I thought, okay, if writing it needs to happen this year, as it becomes so evident because you hear it screaming at you through all these different directions, right? Like that voice gets louder and louder. It's around every corner. I have to put time aside. I have to actually like commit to sessions of writing with people so that I know without a doubt that accountability is there. And then hilariously, I have one of these meetings set up for this week, even amidst all the OracleFest stuff, going, nope, it's important. It's got to move forward. Doesn't matter. This is a priority. And then just yesterday, I had all this information come flowing in because I knew I had this meeting coming up later in the week. So it's like, it actually makes space. You choose that, you set the intention that it will move forward, and then somehow space clears in your mind and things start, coming forward. So I love that you're doing a group because I think a lot of people really do thrive off and benefit from that in entrepreneurial spaces. And a lot of people are too scared to like put themselves out there or to make that commitment. And so I love that you offer this beautiful little space for all of that, for them to get the resources and the expertise they need too.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they can still get hands-on support with the things that they need. It just won't be managed by me, but it's still,
Yes.
they have access to our team and everything. So it's a good compromise in that way too. And
Mm.
it opens up other possibilities too. I feel
Yeah.
especially for long-term growth and really having that long-term support. Um, yeah.
Yeah, because it's not a
But
one and
they're
done thing, right? Like
mm,
these Oracle decks and projects that people work on, there's like a whole pathway after that fact as well, that it's nice to have community for and support each other. And I'm sure it's nice that you keep a variety in that way. I can see it similar to OracleFest, where there's lots of different people getting involved. And so the idea is someone's journey with star seeds might be like, okay, I'm feeling satisfied in that, but I really want to come back to earth and learn more about shamanism and learn more about land connection, and however it is that people want to come into it, that there's that other community waiting to kind of hold them. And I'm sure some of your creators can find that as well with each other.
yeah. And I just wanted to say too, what you just said about, really creating space for projects. I feel I'm really seeing that too. I started working on a new card deck for myself this past fall, and it came in like very intuitively. I had seen it coming for quite a while, but then all of a sudden it was
I
just,
love that.
okay, I know what I'm going to create. Now's the time. And I asked my illustrator if she was, if she was willing to help me with that project, and she said yes. And then I really made that investment, and it felt so good, It was like, okay, I'm committing to this financially, and I'm creating this space, and now I'm planning the Kickstarter, and there's so many things connected to that as well. And I just know, I need to make space so I can put in the time and effort that's required to actually succeed with this and to really move forward with it. And
Mm.
so it's really good to see that from this perspective as well, from the
Yeah.
perspective of the creator. Um, Even though initially Wonderland Publishing started as that, it was really to self-publish my own products initially, and now I'm kind of coming full circle with that as well. I've learned
Mm.
so much, and so I'm getting to implement all the things that I've learned on my own journey. But it's definitely helpful too, especially now working with the groups, seeing how it actually feels from the creative perspective as well. And so,
Love
yeah.
that. That
Anyway, a
brings
lot
like,
more I could say about that, but
yeah, I know.
mm,
It's a lot more I could also ask about that. I think it's such a beautiful thing, because you are walking the walk and role modeling as well. And I think there's something that comes up for me a lot in looking at healing work, and at least the way I like to approach healing work. I think it's important to role model and to put myself in the experiences that lead me to be able to speak on what I'm speaking on. So for empath energetics, I always pull my own light and shadow and legacy archetype cards, and I put myself in the mix of needing to do deep healing self-reflection every time. And so then I say, okay, you know what? I need a break. I can't be doing that nonstop. Like that's a lot. And so then I work on these creative projects, but even in the creative aspect, there's still um, a part of this, which is like putting yourself up to it, putting yourself into it, and saying, okay, now I want to be with other people who are also bringing visions to life, because you feel supported having that shared energy. But for you to think you're higher than, or, well, I learned so much, so I'll just stay here and I'll just teach. Actually, like what got you started was this feeling of like, oh, you kind of gripping the edge of whatever we're riding in life. You're gripping the edge of that, saying, okay, I'm making this financial commitment. This is happening now. Oof, it's Mary O'Malley, one of our Oracle Fest speakers, has referred to it like a birth, right? And it makes a lot of sense, because you have this sensation that there's a lot of discomfort that could come with this, thing that's getting created with this gestation, period. Also, when this Kickstarter comes out and when your deck comes out and everything, feel free to send it to us at OracleFest, and we'll link it, behind the scenes and things, because we do want to, support you sharing that out. I think it's beautiful to have more things in one place for people. So
Yeah, I would love that.
absolutely.
The pre-launch page is actually up already for the Kickstarter, so I could share it now.
Yeah,
It's
you
a
sent
long
it.
link, but I'll send it to you.
Yeah, do it.
Link it.
I'll put it in this description of this YouTube, but also we'll put it in the OracleFest behind the scenes stuff for everyone. Yeah, how exciting.
Awesome. Thank
It
you.
is. It's such a beautiful thing to really honor your own creative works. I think like if everyone in the world was gonna move towards like a more compassionate, a more healed, a more empowered world, we would have way more people saying yes to these creative impulses and these little intuitive nudges and these little knowings. Like it's so sad to me, actually. I won't stay on this very long, but it is so sad to me when I'm so blessed to be able to talk to a lot of people who are pursuing their dreams and their intuitive nudges. And then when I have that perspective that, oh, this is not the norm, right? Because this is the norm for Kate. So I'm used to this on a day-to-day level. And then when I have this moment of sitting back, I really do think we have so far to go with humanity being able to trust that sense in themselves, that I gotta dial it up to 10, like, that if all of us who are already aware of this beautiful pathway can trust it, double the amount of time, that we're currently trusting it, it really does have this ripple effect, because people become inspired hearing, well, Anna, how have you managed to do that for 12 years? And how is it that you met your partner just by this series of, how is it the only person who came through that app? I think that's hilarious. I think that's so funny. You could just say, bing, one person, close the app. I think that type of story, any of these little types of stories, need to be shared more often. I was having this challenge of deciding in which ways we can grow the OracleFest team in the future, and with Heart's Frontier not wanting, the healing work to take any type of back seat. And I was thinking, oh, you know what? Probably will need a bookkeeper at some point, because it'd be nice. I don't have to do my own taxes. I can do. I would like to not at some point. That would be cool. And so then I was sitting at this cafe, and it was the first time I'd gone out all week, because I just hadn't felt the need to go out anywhere. I thought, I got to get out of the house. And of all the cafes to sit in a town that I have not spent much time in, because it was at my parents', so it's Kingston, Ontario, for anyone who knows that area. I don't know it that well. And of all the places and of all the seats to sit, this gal walks in, and we've known each other from online, like, masterminds. She used to live in Nova Scotia, okay? So I did not expect us to like cross paths in Kingston. And she sits down right in front of me, and she's like, oh, hey, Kate. She's this bookkeeper who's awesome. And so we can't make up. This is one of those situations where my parents would go, well, how do you live a life like that? And it really becomes so much more obvious the more you trust in it. This is just what happens, actually. Life is really magically like winding this silly path for us to just say yes to. And so I'm so grateful that you are on that path and doing that.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm probably going to have to ask you for that contact.
Yeah.
I know, like, I know I need help with, well, especially the accounting side of things.
Yeah. It's good to lean on your specialties,
Yeah, I'm getting to that point where like everything's like it's easy for me usually to do a lot of things, but I'm just getting to the point where I know I need to start outsourcing more things.
And honestly, she's real happy doing this, because she sets in her music. She's like vibing with her numbers. Like, oh, that's the person who should do the numbers. I don't get that way. I try to set up a really good vibe, okay, it's tax time, let's get into it. And I try to have like a good drink, good coffee drink. And even still, there's just not a way that's going to spark joy for me. All right. And so give it to someone else who will find joy or purpose, at least in that respect, for themselves. So I love that. I support that. I'll give you her contact. Absolutely. Anyone else listening to this who knows someone, feel free to help Anna out. And yeah, here's to honoring the creative capacity that you have to give to this world, just opening up fully and continuing more and more of this saying yes to whatever's next. And I'm glad that right now you're happy to join us for OracleFest.
Yay. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. And I feel what you said about, all the like honoring our creativity or reconnecting with our creativity. I feel this is actually a really important point and a really important part of healing the world, ultimately, if we want to go, or if we want to say it that way. Because we are creators, that's the essence of our being. And I feel pretty much all the problems that we have in this world on some level come from that place of feeling disconnected from our own inner creator. And so I feel through embracing our own creative self-expression and really liberating that part of ourselves that's such an essential part of our being, really the core of our being. That's really how we reconnect with everything, not just ourselves, but everything around us too, because we're all connected as well. And there's so much healing that happens in that space as well. And it's directly connected to that. Actually, the first deck I created many years ago, the magical heart healing cards, are really about that. It's like part of it is about the heart healing. I know you work a lot with the heart as well, but such a big part of that is really liberating our own inner creator. And I just see how that is connected, or I've seen it as a theme on my journey so many times. Like sometimes it could be something like, okay, I'm feeling really stuck with something, or I'm just feeling kind of depressed right now. Or, I mean, sometimes it's okay to, or even helpful to just sit with it and not need to do anything about it or fix it. But often I felt when I just give myself permission to go and play or just create something, then something just magically unblocks and I'm back. I'm connected to that part of myself that, that's yeah, it's I'm kind of losing my train of thought here. But I think you know what I'm trying to say. I'm
I
just
think
seeing
that,
it everywhere in the world. Yeah.
and part of this
So,
is also this like what you're saying. I really resonate with this, thinking that it's also healing our ability to connect, right? Because anything you do that is creative is asking for some level of internal reflection or presence or connection or overhauling. Sometimes creativity feels like kind of bringing past selves through and out of you. And even in the case of heart healing, right, this is coming from a place of metabolizing your experiences in life and your feelings, your emotions in life, and what has laid on your heart, what has weighed heavy on your heart, and what has released it, what has allowed that to like lighten up. And that's the juice of what you're sharing. That's an incredibly deep process. But you hear heart healing cards, you go, that's lovely, right? And we see like the result of it and not the depth of where it came from. And I think that's true with most creative works. Like I perform comedy sometimes. I perform music comedy, and I have to laugh. I mean, because it's supposed to be funny to me, but I have to laugh that a lot of what I end up feeling inspired to write about has been ways that I find the world to be challenging. And so it comes from a very deep place of having problems with how things are going. But I make light of it because you go, whoa, what else am I going to do? It comes from a really deep place, but it's just a silly song, but it does come from quite a place of despair. Even there can be quite an amount of deep feelings. And anytime we're lightening up our own despair, we are vibrating higher, and so the frequency of the world benefits. Right, that we are one part of that, this little part, but big in energy as well. And that every single time we're doing something creative, we are self-healing in some kind of way just by creating that connection that's deeper, even if it doesn't feel like it. I don't know, sometimes it doesn't feel super cathartic and light to do creative work. Sometimes you're just in it, but it's after the fact you realize it has ultimately raised that vibration or lightened the load of suffering.
yeah, absolutely. And I think this is another important point too, just reconnecting with the magic of the inner child. I think that's what you're talking about too, and just not taking life so seriously. I've talked about this with my partner a lot, and that's something that came through on a medicine journey we did together last year. and we just had this experience together. We are kind of in that same space together for a little while, and it was just hilarious. Like all of a sudden we just experienced ourselves as the pretty much the essence of our souls, and we're like little kids, and just it was so funny. And from that perspective, I could just see like so many of the things that we worry about in this world don't even matter. I mean, we're just playing a game here, and we're just choosing the game. Like everyone's choosing the game that they're playing. And ultimately, it gets difficult when we start taking it too seriously, or when we forget that we're playing a game and that we're playing a role, and then we think, oh, everybody else needs to play the game with us, or needs to play it in the way that we think.
These are the rules. These are the rules,
exactly.
Right? Yeah, yeah. I love that. And it's so true. And we're all winners of this game, right? As long as you're playing the game, you're winning. Right? If you play it as a game, then you're winning. And I like the idea of like the losers are the people who didn't want to play the game. They just didn't want to join the game. They just want to sit and repeat until, repeat the suffering. I mean, yeah, I do love that. I also like the idea that like the process of enlightenment is not about like taking yourself serious. It's about lightening up, right? It's just about lightening up. And so what is it that makes you feel freer? What is it that makes you feel lighter? And it can be so simple as that. Yeah, it does not need to be overcomplicated. It does need to be done though. Can't be avoided.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that perspective too, because I feel it's the new paradigm is really so different from what we were taught traditionally and all the spiritual religious traditions about enlightenment. Like a lot of that is just very mental and masculine, that focus, and it's all about hard work and effort and reaching a goal and attaining something.
Yeah.
That somehow seems almost unreachable or outside of ourselves or above ourselves. But I think what you said is so valuable, because just that very simple concept of lightening up, that's really what it is. We're coming back and reconnecting with our inner child, and it's all built in already. We already know how to do this.
Yeah, it's not far from us. It's from us. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Because, yeah, how maddening is it to grow up in a world where it feels like the destination is continually out of reach, right? It's like, so, yeah. And I think when I first started out anyways, with a lot of just understanding different spiritual ways, it was thinking, well, is there a destination anywhere within this? And this is a full circle moment, because as we started the call, you were sort of saying, yeah, I am looking at, what's ahead, but there is this magic to showing up every day and saying, okay, what am I actually flowing with? And if creating OracleFest has been any testament to this, it has been quite easy. Like when things are in alignment, it just sort of just feels like it already is lined up for you almost. I often think of these things like dominoes. You have this feeling where, all the dominoes are clicking. And then whoop, you just notice when one stops, you go and repair that, and then go into that place where all the dominoes are clicking again. Just how satisfying that is. Anything else you wanted to add before our time on Oracle Mountain wraps up?
I don't know. There's so much more we could talk about, but
I know.
But yeah, I'm just really excited to be here, and thank you for this opportunity too, and even for the magical and synchronistic way that you reached out to me as well. Because I know, based on what I read in the message that you sent me, you actually found me through one of my clients, and then just kind of like I felt immediately that it was a yes for me. I needed to be there, and then when we met for our call, the first call we had together, I mean, 5 minutes into the conversation, we realized how much we actually had in common. We were in the same province, dog sitting.
Yeah. Totally. That's why I was like, I'm sure we'll just chat again, in a public forum, but also not. I think, it's so cool. It's so cool, isn't it? Because it is rare to meet people who live this way. So it's so cool to meet someone in that same world. So, and all the ways that our pathways lined us up to each other.
Yeah, so I'm really grateful for that. And I think it's just another beautiful example of what can happen when we're just really following the magic and embracing this intuitive way of life.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think being really centered in our hearts, I think is a really big part of that. And yeah,
Absolutely.
again, so much more I could say about
I
that,
know.
but
We're going to have to chat again anyways. I'll have you back on Oracle Mountain or whatever else either of us are doing in life, by the time we do this again. But for anyone who is so fascinated to hear more about Anna and also specifically more about publishing and Oracle deck creation, maybe more about this community or more about the done for you work. Like if you're still like, actually, I don't know which category I'd fit into, then you should come out to Oracle Fest. Oracle Fest online is January 31st, February 2nd, and Anna will be there as part of our publishing panel, which I'm so grateful for as well. I'm so glad you heard the call. It's been amazing to me. All the alignment personally with every Oracle Fest speaker coming in to add something very unique to this fire as it grows. So thank you very much for being here, Anna, and thank you for sharing more about your story as well. Because yeah, I know it's not as common. Normally you get to talk about more of the career things, but I was like, oh, this is so interesting to people. And it is really a testament to your personal alignment, even in the work that you're going to do, is going to be guided by that place as well.
yeah, thank you so much. And I'm just really happy to be here and can't wait for the publishing panel. It's coming up
Awesome.
really soon. So
Yes, it is.
yeah, definitely join us if you're interested in publishing your own card deck.
Beautiful. Oh yeah, and I should mention if you're not free, you can also get the replays because then you can watch it whenever it's time for you and your project and your book and all that. So if you're working on an Oracle deck and you want to sit and actually absorb this at another time, then you can go check the replays as well. Okay, cool. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, everyone, and take care.